Hey all, let's talk about the astrology of March. Um, the astrology of February was a lot, and I think the real invitation for March is to sit and process and listen. Might be easier said than done, but I think that's the real invitation. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Lisa Merrifield. I'm an astrologer and holistic health practitioner, and my goal on this channel is to share wisdom of the sky for everyday life. I don't like hype. I don't like spin. I just want to share practical advice that lets you live your best life. So, all right, let's do a little bit more of a recap on February. Remembering that we had some of the most significant astrology, perhaps the most significant astrology of the entire year happened in the last couple of weeks of February. We had a major eclipse, and 3 days later, we had the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, which is an event that only happens every 36 years. And it happened at the Aries point, 0 degrees of Aries. So just really new initiating energy. Eclipses bring beginnings and endings. They unstick things. They help us see things in new ways. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction really is bringing new structure to our dreams. It's dissolving places that are calcified in our lives so that we can bring in this new energy, this new both society and new way of living in your life. So so lots of exciting energy, and I know from talking to so many of you that it's been hard. There's just too much, too fast, and so yeah, we got to take care of ourselves. So and it's also interesting because depending on how this shows up in your chart, shows up how will depend on how it shows up for you and how strongly it comes in. But I do think no matter what you're feeling right now, something was seeded this last month, and that it will grow over the next months and years into, I think, something beautiful, although it might be a little bumpy along the ride. So after the energy of February, I think March is going to feel different. And hopefully different good and not different frustrating, but we'll see. So March starts on the 3rd with a lunar eclipse. So eclipses come in pairs. They happen twice a year. So we had one on February 17th. Our second eclipse is on March 3rd, and it's a lunar eclipse. So it's still powerful energy. Solar eclipses tend to be more external kinds of things, and lunar eclipses tend to be more internal, seeing things inside. So with this lunar eclipse, it's really important to listen to your body, listen to your heart, listen to the inner quiet voice, see what shows up, see what piques your interest, and pay attention to that. The impacts of eclipses are long lasting, so we might not see the impacts play out until the third quarter moon, which is about a week after, or even 2 weeks after the March 3rd eclipse. We might not see it until the new moon happens. And do I have the date on that? The new moon is on March 18th. So yeah, so just pay attention. What comes, what goes, what's new, what's different, and sit with that. Eclipses bring a lot of energy, so it's not really a time to push forward. And this prominent energy comes all at a time when Mercury is retrograde in Pisces. So Neptune was in Pisces for about the last 7 years, and I think I wrote down in my notes, Neptune went into Pisces in 2011. So all of that time, we've had this Piscean flavor. And Neptune just moved out of Pisces for good at the beginning of this year in January. And then Saturn's been in Pisces since 2023. So we've just had a lot of Piscean energy. Saturn and Neptune came together at 0 degrees of Aries, so they'd moved out of Pisces, but then Mercury is retrograde in Pisces. So I think there's a real invitation to, with Mercury retrogrades in general, there's an invitation to revise, review, reevaluate our mental processes in whatever sign the house is retrograde in, which is your Pisces house. So this retrograde, actually this year, all the retrogrades are in water signs. So there's an emotional component to them too. So there's something about feeling. There's also something about there's something mental, but around how you're feeling, how you're connecting to the cosmic consciousness. So so yeah, so it we had all this forward momentum, and I think February, I think we see things, but this Mercury retrograde is a real invitation to pause and really finish up anything we haven't finished up from that Pisces place in our chart from the last 7 years, from the last 2.5 years. I was describing it to somebody and I said, I almost feel like it's going to feel like we're holding our breath. Like we know something's coming, but we have to clean up these loose ends. We have to sit until it's time to exhale, until it's time to move forward. And sometimes that can feel frustrating. It might feel like we're stalled, but I don't think it is. I think it's that there are just some pieces that have to keep up to catch up, and some loose ends that have to come together. So so I think that for March overall, until we get to about the 20th, the invitation is really not to force the next steps, to really, you know, to be slow and be deliberate. And, if your website's not working or if your travel plans get messed up, to really just roll with it, because the harder you push during a Mercury retrograde, the slower you will go. Mercury is quite the trickster, and so it's important to go with the flow during Mercury retrogrades, particularly in Pisces. Mercury is not strong in Pisces. It's detriment, and so it's a hard place. Great time to sing or be poetic or do art, any of that kind of ways of expression is perfect with Mercury and Pisces, just not pushing forward fast. So, others around you may be pushing forward fast, but you know better. And you know that whatever gets pushed into action may have to be redone. So one step at a time, move forward slowly. If the door is definitely opened, if it's a definite yes, then go forward. But just take note. April, we have a ton of Aries energy. Actually, the end of March into April, we have a ton of Aries energy. So I think that we're going to move, like we will get going again. But there's just this pause here. Just sit and finish up anything and make sure you're going in the right direction. So that's the overall energy of the month. So let's go through some specific dates. March 2nd, Mars moves into Pisces. Mars is how we take action. And in Pisces, Mars is the artist or the activist. Mars is not, Piscean energy is just diffuse, and Mars likes sharp lines. And so it's again, a harder placement for that to be in. And as Mercury is retrograde in that space, it's kind of helping to clear up those pieces, clear up those loose ends. When we get to March 7th, we reach the midpoint of the Mercury retrograde. So the sun and Mercury will meet the sun on March 7th, and that's called a cazimi. And when that happens, it's sort of like the new moon for the Mercury cycle. So it's like a seeding moment. So March 7th, watch what you see, hear what piques your interest. It's right after the eclipse, so there might just be a lot coming in around that time. And just, make a note of it. Just see where it goes. Mercury cycles are fast. We have about three retrogrades a year, so they move quickly. And so, so this isn't necessarily like earth shattering, but I think it's going to be something around like, how do I put these pieces back together? How do I really make sure that moving forward into this next 36-year cycle is as magical as I want and hope it will be? Around that same time, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, Venus moves into Aries, and then it meets Saturn and Neptune. So as planets, Saturn and Neptune have just had this amazing conjunction, and as planets touch it, they start to carry forward the story. They start to build whatever is coming. Now, again, we're in this Mercury retrograde, but we will have this Mercury cazimi in there. So I wonder, around that time period, 6th, 7th, 8th, if we're not going to get a little bit more clarity around where we're going and what we're doing. So with Venus is about what we love, who we love, how we love. And so, so I just wonder if there's going to be some clarity around what this new vision looks like, what this new thing you're moving into is. And again, it might not be clear to you. You might just know that you're not going wherever you were, but you're not sure where you are going. It just depends on how it hits in your chart and what kind of planets you've got on the Aries Libra axis. All right. When we get to March 18th, we have that new moon, and Venus squares Jupiter. And new moons are always seeding moments. And I always like to point out when Venus and Jupiter come together, even if they come together in a square, which is not traditionally an easy aspect to work with, but when the benefics come together, it's usually a nice thing. So I'm hoping that new moon on the 18th. Let me see what else is going on. Yeah, it's sextiling Uranus, so it may be some surprises, but I don't think they're going to be tough surprises around that new moon. So the 18th, I'm hoping is a nice day. Maybe brings us some good news, some new information, some happy outcomes. Maybe we'll just be in a good mood. So put that on your calendar. I think March 18th, hopefully, will bring some nice balm to all of this. And then we get to the 20th, and the sun enters Aries. So this is the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. For us, it's the beginning of the growing season. It's the start of the zodiac, and it's the point of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So it's a moment where the sun is hitting that place. And again, like starting the conversation, like what does the sun need to do to carry forth that message? How is it going to illuminate and shine on whatever that part of your life that you're starting to build? Again, long, slow cycles, weeks, months, years before we really understand what is happening, perhaps. And maybe you do, but maybe you don't. But just so that's all coming together. The 20th is an interesting turning point in the month. I think the beginning of the month is that holding your breath. Sit tight, don't leap before you look. And then we get to the 20th, and I wonder if it's not going to start to feel like we're moving forward again, maybe too fast, because at that point we will have 5 planets in Aries on the 20th. Mars and Mercury are the only ones left in Pisces besides Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is in Aries. So, well, let me make sure I'm not lying to you. So everything is, so Uranus is in Taurus, Jupiter's in Capricorn, Pluto's in Aquarius, but everything else is in Aries or Pisces. Most of it's in Aries, and then we have Mercury and Mars in Pisces. So it's a really concentrated chart. There's just really a lot of energy around that space. Chiron is in Aries as well. Chiron has an elliptical orbit, so it's in Aries like a lot of the time, more of the time than it's in other signs, but nonetheless, Chiron's there too. So there's a lot of this Aries initiating fiery energy. Aries is sort of the match strike. It's quick, it's innovative, it's pioneering, and so we have this holding our breath during the Mercury retrograde, and then blasting into the end of March and through April with all this Aries energy. I think it can be awesome. I think it can be really good and really innovative and really get us going. And I think it can be too fast. So I think that there's just breathe. I guess you've been holding your breath. Breathe. Be sure to really look before you leap. Really not. Well, yeah, just make sure you're going where you want to go, because I think you can go there quickly. April, and again, depending on what you've got on the Aries Libra axis, or the Cancer Capricorn axis, any of those kinds of placements probably are going to feel this really significantly. So, all right, yeah. So that's the equinox on the 20th. On the 22nd, the sun, the sun meets Neptune, and then Saturn. So as I mentioned, that's that illumination, that shining some light on whatever it is we're building. I think that's gonna kind of come to pass as the month ends, and we move into that quick Aries energy. By the 30th, Venus will move into Taurus. So by the end of March, we have Venus to kind of help ground us in this space, so that should be helpful. Hit record on this. Yes, I did. Oops, sorry. I just had a moment of panic. Yeah, by the 30th, Venus has moved into Taurus. So while we have a lot of Aries energy in April, hopefully that Venus in Taurus will help kind of ground us. Venus is strong in Taurus, and so let's hope that. Yeah, so we end the month, and then is it? Yeah, so we have a an outer planet. We sometimes call it a talent triangle or a minor grand trine between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. And so that energy is kind of being activated as well. That's nice, like societal transformational energy. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in future months as they start to come together. But those are we're seeing some new kinds of kind of energy around how that is going to work for us going forward, like what this new society looks like. So hopefully your March energy is a welcome pause and it's not frustrating. Remember, don't push forward too fast. If things are asking you to be slow, be slow. Because when Mercury's retrograde, if we barrel through, oftentimes we have to redo it, or it just goes slower than it would have if we just sit tight. So yeah, tie up loose ends, sit in the stillness at least for a little bit, and see what comes to you. See what speaks to you. So yeah, and no matter what's going on in the world around you, know that the universe is colluding to move you and society forward into better, more holistic, um, more like increased equality, all of those things. We're up leveling, and we are growing as a human species. So that's what we're doing. All right. Thanks again. My name is Lisa Merrifield, and I hope this is helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.